I should add that while, of course, we have concentrated in these opening remarks on what we saw and whom we met in Gaza, we did also have a day of very valuable meetings in Cairo. We had a meeting with the Egyptian Foreign Minister, with the Secretary General of the Arab League, and with the Speaker of the Egyptian Parliament. Now, we're very ready indeed to answer any... I'm sorry. Yes. I'll hand over to Arafat Shukri, who the organizer of the delegation, and then we'll be very ready, of course, to take questions.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Let me first start with thanking all the delegation for taking much of their time, precious time actually, to come with us to visit Gaza. Without their participation, this visit would not have happened. Also, I'd like to express my thanks and gratitude to Sir Gerald, who led our delegation brilliantly and efficiently. May I also thank our colleagues in the European campaign to end the siege of Gaza for working day and night tirelessly to make this happen, and especially my colleague here, Majid Azir, the General Director of the Palestinian Return Center. The European campaign to end the siege of Gaza is an umbrella body of 30 NGOs across Europe, established 2 years ago to address the issue of the siege, and we work on different levels, political, humanitarian and legal levels, to try to bring an end to this illegal siege imposed on the Palestinian people in Gaza. The visit, which took place just a few days ago, just on the 14th and ended on the 18th, was not the first delegation we sent to Gaza, and I promise you it will not be the last, but it is the biggest delegation that goes to this region for two messages, actually, to do two things. The first is to send a message of solidarity with the people besieged in Gaza. And the second purpose is to assess the humanitarian and political situation. For this purpose, we met, as Sergio mentioned, different people, parliamentarians, the Prime Minister, NGOs, the head of UNRWA there. On our return also we met the Foreign Minister of Egypt, the Speaker of the Parliament in Egypt, and also Secretary General of the Arab League, Mr. Amr Musa. This visit will not end by coming here. There will be follow-up for this visit. The visit itself is important, of course, but I think the follow-up is very important. We are planning, and we've started already, to communicate with the parliamentarians across Europe, in the European Parliament and the national parliaments as well, and also with the officials in the European Union and the prime ministers and foreign ministers across Europe. Our message will continue. We will not leave the people of Gaza alone. This siege is illegal. And my concern is that the situation is worsening day by day. I've been to Gaza several times during the last 2 years, and this time what I saw is that things are worsening day by day. And I'm afraid that if the war is completed to isolate Gaza, I'm afraid that the Palestinians will have nothing left at all, and I'm afraid the situation will explode at any moment without opening the borders between all borders. I mean, not just with Rafah, but all the borders with Israel. I'd like to thank you again, Sergio, and if you have questions, would be for the press.
Thank you very much. But before we do that, Lynn Jones, who was a member of the delegation, is here, and perhaps you would like to say something, Lynn.
Well, I haven't heard the early discussion, but I think the visit has re-energised me to keep pressing our government over the EU trade agreement. Constantly we are told by the government that it's important to engage with Israel, and therefore they will not exercise any of the sanctions that would be available to them. But why is it that Israel can have preferential rights to European markets, whereas Palestine, which also has those rights, cannot exercise them because of the Israeli blockade. And this came home to me when we were given some strawberries, delicious strawberries, that were grown in Gaza. But now that organisation has had to lay off thousands of workers because they have no access to markets because of the blockade. And it is just constantly, you have the Israel, which is armed, able to take action against international law with impunity, and yet the international community will not defend the Palestinians who are completely helpless with this powerful neighbour next door.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Now we'll take questions. Anybody behind the row of cameras, whom of course we welcome, who wants to put a question, I'd suggest they come forward so that we can hear them better. But please put your questions, and all of us around this table will be ready, not all of us to answer every one, but all of us will be ready to answer your questions. I should add that we have already started a number of actions. As Dr. Shukri said, our return from Gaza is not the end of the proceeding. The Foreign Secretary in this country, David Miliband, has already agreed to see the 11 parliamentarians from this country who went on the delegation. We've also asked the Secretary of State for International Development to meet us. We shall be seeking to organise a debate in this House of Commons, and our colleagues across Europe will be doing the same in their own countries and their own parliaments and in the European Parliament. And we're seeking to meet right across the delegation in Brussels, Baroness Ashton, the newly appointed spokeswoman for foreign affairs of the European Union. Thank you. We'll take questions. Could anybody who asks a question be kind enough to give their name and the media organisation they represent? Come forward through the cameras, and then we'll be able to hear you better.
Fawad Hashmi, a Pakistani journalist. So, Gerald, how do you find the attitude of the Egyptian authorities?
Of the
Egyptian authorities? The
Egyptian authorities, well, without the assistance of the Egyptian authorities, we would not have got there. It was they who went to a great deal of trouble to facilitate our crossing at the Rafah crossing, both ways. John Ging of UNRWA, and I would like to pay a very great tribute to him, because the work that he has done is absolutely essential, fighting against great odds. And when he told us, for example, Baroness Tong has been speaking about the children, when he told us that the UN meal, of the main meal for the children in Gaza every day, is a yogurt together with a bar of other food. When we know that that is the main food that's available, one can see the huge frustration of UNRWA in doing unparalleled work of mercy. But Mr. Ging told us that the work of the Egyptian government in helping the people of Gaza was absolutely indispensable. So the information we got in Gaza, and our own experience, of course, of being able to go to Gaza through the assistance of the Egyptian government, speaks for itself.
But you know, that the Egyptian government is building, trying to block the tunnels, trying to prevent material going across to Gaza, trying to block their lifeline. So how do you see all these things?
Well, I had the opportunity on Tuesday of putting a question to our Foreign Secretary at Foreign Office Questions. and received a very valuable reply in which he not only called on the Israelis, who of course are responsible for this illegal blockade, but also called on the Egyptian government to do everything that they can to assist in getting supplies into Gaza.